Hello, everyone. Welcome to the September-October community meeting 2022 of the Paradise Station server. And today we will take care of a topic that should have been taken care of a long time ago. This community meeting will be mostly about our developers. It will be mostly about our developers and the development of the server. So most of the questions, most of the topics we will discuss today will actually be answered and hosted not by me, but by Affected. And I guess that's all I have to say, because Affected, the stage is yours. However, we will take care of all the questions, and the forum post is now locked, so no more questions will be accepted. And please behave in the chat. Thank you very much.
Right, so the first question on the list was Midge asks suit sensor options and suit sensor locking in character setup. I'm gonna be honest here, no. The whole point of the reason suit sensors aren't a preference is because it gives the CMO something to nag about around start. And if it was a preference, everyone would just have it be automatically enabled. It's too much sort of like overprotection for stuff. There needs to be that risk there. And also, the ability for people to lock them, that would completely remove the ability for Antags to stealth kill people and hide the body, and it would just encourage even more, like, leaving people space never to return, which I don't want to promote.
As a general thing, I think we have a lot of efficiency creep. So a lot of PRs seek to make something more quality of life or make something more efficient, which is understandable. But over time, this creeps up, and you're left with a game that's too efficient. You sort of like code the game out of the game.
It also runs the issue of the reason it's randomized is prevent meta. It's an excuse for why your suit sensors aren't maxed when someone asks you. If everyone has their sensors always maxed each time, people don't have the excuse of why their sensors isn't maxed.
Fox has written down automatic suit sensor locking on round start is something I don't feel will be healthy for the overall thrust of the game. It leads to yet even more individuals being harder to kill who don't pay any attention to things. I think the randomized method is best.
Yeah, it's just an easy way to catch people out, honestly.
Yeah. Anyone else got things to say on this matter? No?
No.
And then next up is dynamic mode. I know that it'll take work, specifically on coders to datamize Antags, but I'd like to know where we currently are on it and progress, and what we need to do to make it possible. Which, I don't know the exact status on thing, but the main thing we need for it are, like you said, the datamized Antags. The framework is in what's called, once that's done, the framework needs to be put in place. And then a full, like, week of tweaking values for the weights and stuff, because the dynamic config has like 30 different variables for how stuff should happen, and it'll take a full like week or so of tweaking those to make it just right for Paradise. And if you mess one of them up, the server either becomes boring, or you have raging mages and nukies in the same round, followed by a cult.
So pretty much what we need to do from like a development standpoint is we need to either we could do one of two things. So we could go with what we have right now, which is 3 datamized Antags, and we'd have sort of like a dynamic light in essence, where we would remove the default traitor, auto traitor, vampire, all like the main 3 Antag game modes, and just have like dynamic light, where it'd be all these Antags mixed in, and obviously there'd be the tweaking of configs and stuff. Or we could wait until we have them all done, which might be quite a while. Antag code has a lot of technical debt that needs cleaning up before we can do them all. That's what I have to say on it.
Fox wrote, still have a long way to go. Datamizing of Antags is a great stride in this effort, but further groundwork still needs to be laid, up to and including making the game modes themselves more modular. Dynamic is still a mode I hold as being the holy grail. I've got to sneeze in a second. That I hold for being the holy grail of S13. It greatly hinders efforts to metagame what the round type is. Kane, anyone else got anything to say on Dynamic? No?
Honestly, I
Okay.
can't look forward to I can't look forward even more than I can now. Look for Dynamic. I can't wait for it to pop in.
Slow progress, but it will be done eventually. Veterankyl asks, change assassinations to not require permakilling. It feels like as of late, assassination objectives have kind of railroaded people into being quick and hyper-efficient as possible when killing someone. Trying out some gimmicks or more fun methods of assassination don't turn out well for the Antag, as they also need a means of making sure their target has no way of coming back once killed. Has there been any discussion on potentially changing assassination objective to only require that the target be killed once rather than dead at the end of the round? I feel like a change for this would open up opportunities for more creative means of assassination without the stipulation requiring the target to stay dead. If there's concern that make assassination too easy, there could be additional conditions attached, such as blah blah blah, place a calling card on a person's dead body, given the start of the round, or removing a body part. I feel like the problem here is just sort of a shift in culture. Like over the years I've been here, I've definitely seen more of a play to win attitude as opposed to play for fun. Like, I refer to this as the power gaming arms race between security and Antags of who can outgame the other side to win, where one side will have, like, implants, and the next one will load up with implants and fuck tons of meme cams, and then there'll be someone who's just, like, jitter-clicking 24/7 to get a stun in, etc., etc. But anyway, it's a toxic culture, and I feel like the server has had less of an RP level than it has before, in my honest opinion. I would be open to a shift in objectives. Most notably, at the start of the round, traitors have a blend in for 30 minutes objective. So you aren't perma-killed instantly at the start of the round, because some people do that. But for people who leave early in the round, it makes you not need a reroll. And as for the assassination thing, there has been talk in the past of an objective that's just like teach X a lesson, where you just have to kill them once, but they don't need to be dead by the end of the round. But it's just sort of like sending a message. And for this, Fox wrote, I'm not particularly keen on making assassinate objectives kill once, then it's fine. This will start breaking down into the traitor killing the target and then immediately bring them to cloning. Those who are high status players who've been around forever, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes one step further and good to go, yo, can you die and immediately revive so I can green text? It also means accidental deaths during the round are inevitably going to result in green text. I realize this can already happen, but someone dying once then getting revived doesn't make much sense in the lore context, nor will it really add to round chaos. I don't think reducing action or dynamism with this method is healthy.
It's really hard to make good objectives because ideally an objective would have stakes, so it'd have a downside to the crew if it's completed. But if you could just revive them and be done with it, there's no stakes to it. Also, with like permakilling, what's stopping you from letting them get revived as an antagonist? Then you can kill them again later in the round. Like, you don't have to win. Do what you find that finds fun.
It's a bit like contractors, isn't it? You can just send them to Space Brazil and then revive them.
I don't think it would be beneficial if you could just like kill them once and then get them revived. As Fox said, people would definitely kill them and then revive them intentionally.
For me, my concern is I'm fine with other objectives being added, but with the kill but not actually keep them killed style of assassination, I expect people would just go for buying revolver, mag dumping them until they die, and then just run away. It's a one and done, no risk, no entertainment. It's just one person being shot and then the killer just vanishing back into maintenance and not being seen again. I don't think that's more entertaining for the victim, the killer, or security, or the crew as a whole.
Any more?
Someone says killing someone and letting them get revived kind of goes against the point. It's like you didn't even kill them at all. Well, yeah, the point is to let them know that someone's after them. Being an Antag's a role-play experience. You're sending a message. If you want an objective to send a message, then there it is. And then you can kill them later or whatever you want to do. You say it goes against the point, but what do you think the point is? If the point's to win, then I suppose it does go against the point. But it doesn't have to be the point to win.
Next up, Butlerblock with a massive series of questions. Not sure how many are known or plan on being changed, but here's my list of stuff I've noticed that may or may not be intended from the crawl/stamina combat changes. Some may be outright wrong, so feel free to correct me. I've only got to read the bold points for the sake of brevity. People can pick up objects almost instantly after being knocked over. Shields or other block chances can block while knocked down. Certain stuff that knocks down doesn't disarm. People could crawl at full speed with no gravity. Shooting in general while lying down is a silly mechanic, and Xeno disarms don't work well with knockdown. I'm deferring to you because you've done the combat rework and I haven't played enough.
No talk.
Okay. So people can pick up objects almost instantly after being knocked down. That's true. Now, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a bad thing. It introduces an element of skill to combat, and it's not like it introduces skill to combat, and it's not like it knockdown is supposed to be this completely debilitating debuff like stuns used to be. It's sort of supposed to be like a soft win, which is what we're trying to shift combat towards. So you can get multiple soft wins, and then you get them in stam crit, or you kill them, and that's the point where you win rather than straight away. Effective, do you want me to handle all of these questions? Because
yeah, I have a few what's it called? I have a few responses from Fox, but they're pretty brief ones.
Yeah.
Apart in terms of the picking up objects one, part of the increased dynamism from crawling, combat is not meant to be as binary as it was before. Shields are probably too strong at the moment. I really like having the idea of a HP system for shields where they break eventually or need to be repaired. I believe TG has this. In general, there's going to need to be adjustments to the combat system. We're in a transition period and by no means it's fully finished. But yeah, please do speak on this.
I do appreciate the feedback as well, by the way. For the first point, if we did want to change this, and if this was deemed as something that is an issue, we could add a minor delay to taking actions after you get dropped. I'm not sure how good that would be. I don't know what other people think about that.
Would you like me to have input for that one
Yeah.
part?
Yeah, sure.
I played on a lot of TG like downstreams and I've been on TG before. The way TG has it currently, you can instantly pick your shit back up if you're good enough. The whole point of being knocked down and having the item knocked out of your hand is to give whoever got the knockdown the slight advantage and not just make it a static win. The old method we used to have, which was stun meta, you hit somebody with a baton, congratulations, you now have one. You hit them with a taser, you have one. Now it's more of, hey, you knocked this person over, now they have two options. They try and crawl backwards and try and pick up their thing, or they stay where they are and kind of get their shit pushed in a little bit. Yeah,
Yep.
there is the quick pickups as well. But yeah, basically the whole thing is you have this whole dynamic of they now have a decision to make if they want to try and stand their ground for the second or more while they're knocked over, slower, and a much bigger target to get immediately clicked back on, or they, eventually just try and run away. I've seen more often people try and give up their items that they've lost from getting knocked down just to take the second or two to run away while the person who knocked them over decides to pick their shit up.
I can agree. It's mostly an improvement from our previous stuff. The only concern I have with being knocked down and dropping stuff is people I've seen that can use macros for such when they automatically pick up the item they dropped.
I
You
removed
can't.
You
those.
removed
Yeah, you
macros.
can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
on
I
the-
didn't,
yeah.
Bmon did, but I heavily supported the removal of those.
Yeah. Next one, shields. As Fox said, I think shields are sort of a bit silly right now. Me and Eden have been talking a lot about them. I'm not sure whether having a health system would solve the problem. My issue with shields is that they just double your effective stats if you have a 50% block chance, which isn't exactly great, but solutions aren't exactly obvious with this type of thing.
We have a couple ideas that are better than the current ones. We're trying to find a good one.
The issue we have is it's hard to create controls for this type of thing because it needs to work for every single item because there's so many items in the game that have block chance. Tube says in the chat, do you think there should be certain weapons that override shield like axes in Minecraft? Could be interesting. However, who would we give it to?
Isn't that what? Sorry, go ahead.
Like, do we give these to security and they have like some way to counter antagonists using shields, or do we give this to antagonists, or do we give them both? If we give it to like traitors, for instance, then changelings are like left at the lay side. It's sort of just adding items to counter things like this sort of encourages power creep.
I do want to say one thing on this. If we do add a shield bypass or like improve on the one we've already got, for the love of God, it should not be a binary state of bypass or not. There should be like some logic with it.
Currently, it's armor, pen, effects,
And
ability of block.
Also having higher damage or negative armor pen.
Yeah.
Negative.
Let's not go there, please.
It was.
Oh no.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
The
don't worry
pre-process
about
is
that.
great.
Don't worry about that. It's fine. Everything is fine.
Right, the next one. Certain stuff that knocks down doesn't disarm. Everything that knocks down disarms. So if you get knocked down from standing, it will drop your items. However, if you're already on the floor, it will not disarm. Stuff like terror prints cannot. I do agree that some simple mobs have sort of been shafted by the changes, and I think they could do with a bit of a tweaking up. I'm not sure what to do exactly as of right now, but I am open to ideas. So, like as you say, terror prints is pretty in a pretty bad state because you can just knock someone over and then they can shoot you to death, and it's kind of sucky.
Yeah, that's my one issue with knockdown. That sure, batons are no longer the one-hit win, but if you're going in with, say, a weapon that has a high knockdown chance, be it an E-sword or just using, say, the Syndicate Chainsaw, sure, it disarms them once, but if they pick up their laser gun when they're on the ground, you're not going to get it out of their hand by keep hitting them. So that's where batons still kind of steal the show, in the fact that 2 hits will make them drop it because they're stand crits, but no matter how much you whack someone, they're not going to drop what they're holding if they're already crawling.
We could make it so that calling knockdown on someone automatically drops their items even if they're horizontal. I'm not sure what everyone else's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, we probably should consider something like if they're already crawling on the ground or on the ground in general and they're trying to abuse that in a sense, if they get smacked again, they should most likely drop their shit. I don't remember how TG does it, because most people do their fighting standing up unless it's against a blob.
We made it so that blob does bonus.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying though. But most of the time, the correct way that most people fight blobs on TG is lying down with melee in front, and people shoot over them, which is completely and honestly fair and how it should be done.
So Fox said we could make these things also deal stamina in addition. So like the Prince of Terror could do like 40 stamina damage. So if you hit someone 3 times, they go down.
My only problem with that is the damage Terror already does, or Terror Prince does already. Might be a bit much if it does something like that. It is supposed to be like the melee juggernaut. It is slower than you and stuff like that.
Honestly, for Prince at least, I think it should be warranted considering it's
Yeah.
the Prince of Terror. It's supposed to be like the big secondary boss right below the Queen.
Anyway, shooting in general while lying down.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to handle this because it doesn't make sense that you just can't flat out shoot while you're on the ground.
You should only be able to shoot ahead of you.
Could we give them an inaccuracy mod like when you're dual wielding weapons?
Yeah, there are a couple options, as in like slowing down their fire rate or making it inaccurate.
So there's two ideas: is slowing down their fire rate or making it inaccurate. I'm not sure which one would be the better one. Maybe we could try them both and see how it plays out.
I'm down to try either. It's hard to tell which would be better.
Just keep in mind with slowing down, you still got single hit strong weapons like a sniper rifle, for example.
Yeah, as Flo said, I don't enjoy the increase in accuracy because it's just RNG.
Yeah.
Which is my concern with it, but also my concern with just slowing down fire rate is it feels weird. It makes sense for a melee weapon. We have discussed this.
Oh, that's a good one. What Tube said.
Maybe
if you stand still, you should like keep the accuracy, but if you move around, it should decrease. But if you're like lay down still,
That'll need a system, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That would need a
We have
specific system
components.
set up.
I do like the idea, and we do have a moving var, but it's on client, so we could check that. That's possible. I actually like
Is that
that
a
idea.
native or something we did?
Who knows? Client defines moving. It's something we did 10 years ago. It's set
Oh,
to
fuck
null
it.
by default. Oh baby.
Yeah, it's gonna need some checking before we even decide if it's worth doing or not.
Yep.
This is something that's gonna take a lot of work.
Anyway, next thing, Xeno's disarms don't work well with knockdown. This was changed recently, so that's your answer.
Yeah, don't forget that Xenos are a very old thing, and they were running off code from like way the fuck back in the day that never really got updated till recently as well. So expect more bugs to become prevalent over time as we still kind of change things, especially the combat system. Things are just gonna get extra fucked, but please do bring it up when you guys see it.
Like issue reports and even just like balance concerns with Xenos are especially
Yeah, this is why the GitHub
Good.
exists. Thank God for GitHub.
Do you want to continue with the questions affected? We're done with that one.
Yeah. Masterninjamt says, I feel like there should be something for new Antags, like for a Traitor, a recommended items section in the Uplink based on your objectives. Like, if you have an assassination mission, you could be recommended a Stetch Kit or Suppressor, or a stealing item is going to recommend a Komihe kit. Just something to help out people who have no idea what items would work for objectives. I would be down for something like this, like a recommended Uplink section for those who need some pointers if they're new. And we could also use this to suggest sane items, like we could suggest things like the Stetchkin and the Suppressor instead of a mini Ebo and a mini bomb, because that's just fucking boring. But yeah, I think this is a good idea, although Fox says perhaps, but there's a lot more priorities at the moment. This is best held on the wiki for now, perhaps one day though. Honestly, I feel a forum thread would be better than a wiki, because a lot of this is like the wiki should be for like truthful basis, whereas the forum things can be more opinionated on what's a good or bad starter. But
I feel like we could have a traitor section that's like recommended item, like recommended items or whatever, and it's full of like kits, and these kits have like an assassination kit and like a theft kit.
Way back in the day, we had something like this on the forums. There were people who made specific things, their favorite loadouts for specific objectives against specific targets, like people who had more fun using certain items against people that were playing captain, so on. It's something I remember seeing when I started playing back in the day, which is like 3 years ago now, I think? 4 years ago? I don't know, I lost track of time.
Can I have my slow mode removed? Not an admin. I have slow mode.
Slow mo for you, bitch boy.
Whoa, Doc.
No, it's fine. He's fine. He knows I'm his friend. I don't fucking shitpost him for no reason.
I
He
think
likes it.
Is that fixed?
I was actually about to go try and fix the slow mode as well.
There we go.
My one concern for the suggested items, it is a good idea, but I don't see an easy way to code it as what is good and for what situations can vaguely differ. There's matter of opinions. It depends on the map. Some map layouts might be better for, I only need this to break in, but if I go here, it just, there's a lot of variation that makes it very hard to code for better in a forum or wiki, yes.
What we need to do is we have a suggested items thing that's based on what people have previously bought, and the most bought items are pushed to the front of the list, and they base on what objectives you have. I think that'd be a very
for like
good
a
system,
specific
yes.
for like, so we record data on what people buy for certain objectives and then push it up to the top.
You do have that stuff for people who have wins as well, correct? For the people who complete their objectives.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Don't we,
Eden?
You do have the stuff for saying who killed who, right?
We have it.
Okay.
We don't save the job that was killed. We save it if it's completed or not. For steal objectives,
we do save the job that was killed in the death table.
Oh, we did?
Yeah. It's not part of the normal saved feedback data, but I can just cross-reference it to the death table.
Fair enough. And then for steal objectives, we do have the objectives, say for the completion rate of any steal objective, and we could correlate that to what they purchased that round.
Overall, good idea. Interesting TGUI and data project for anyone who wants to take it up. Yeah, if you have over 5,000 hours, it should recommend you the balloon and only the balloon.
You
Anyway,
get
so
the balloon recommendation or nothing but soap.
Cindy
Or
playing
nothing-
cards.
Nothing but trash bags. You gotta kill your targets by suffocating them with a trash bag.
so
Cool.
Medster asks, genetics rework / adding spice to robotics. How does the coding team coders feel like genetic rework should look? Should we try and go with something unique or port something from another server? Also, is there anyone in the anything in the dev team can think of or would add something more interesting to robotics that would give the roboticist something to do than pest a sec with 30 combat mechs? Maybe mod suits or making mechs harder to build / upping the resource cost of combat mechs as a whole. I am waiting for the meeting chat to descend into mod suit memes. But all I want from a genetics rework is to have actual methodology associated with it and not have it built entirely around RNG. Activation shouldn't be chance, you should know concretely if you have something or not, otherwise the gameplay is shit. As for robotics, some sort of augment system would be cool. Yes, I know we already have limb augments, don't tell me, I'm already aware. But if we add something similar, it needs to be properly done, and it needs to be sane from both a balance and code implementation point of view. Mod suits could be done, but I don't know if we want to give science even more ways to power game. There is a reason I have forbid the porting of flight suits, even though they are fucking hilarious and the most fun thing in the world. Anyone who has played all the TG code, you can agree with me. They are fun, but so fucking broken.
I can agree with Mark. They are really fun to play with, but
Yeah,
holy crap.
Sorry, which ones?
flight suits.
Ah,
They are fun, but so bloody broken.
reminds me of the mod suits as well. Fun, but also broken.
Yeah.
Mod suits are pain.
I'd I'd love to see something like mod suits. However, it would need a lot of tweaking to make it good for para.
Tweaking and sprites because while their normal human ones aren't bad,
Species ones.
yeah, they have no species ones at all. It's just human or nothing.
Anyway.
Skyrat might have some.
Do we really want to dig through
No,
that?
no, we do not want to dig through that.
I rest my
And
case.
I looked,
Yeah.
and there isn't. They just use base TG stuff anyway.
Do they just
Nice.
overlay the human sprites on whatever fuckfest of
And
creature you have?
anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
But anyway, going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Fox,
So as
go,
for
you first.
as for genetics, if someone wants to make something their own, then as long as it's good, I'm fine with it. The safe option is obviously to port from TG because that's tested and it's pretty good system. But I'm not gonna say no to someone who makes something their own and it's good. As for adding content to robotics, it's hard to just add content. You need ideas for that.
The person who says goon genetics, I'm just gonna burst your bubble right there. If in your mind you have even the slightest idea of, let's port this from goon, get it out your head. Licensing does not permit that, and Goon tends to be really stingy with sub-licensing features because they want to keep their unique content. We can't port from Goon, get the idea out your head. Anyway, well, literally alluding just from that, Fox's point for this, TG still has the best option for genetics so far, as Goon is locked away for us. It's still close enough to Goon that it more or less feels similar. Genetics, as it stands, is just an atrocious place that is just push button, receive powers, if you're lucky. There's nothing deeper than this. It stood far too long as a system IMO. No comment on the robotics changes.
Yeah, what everyone else said. Genetics needs literally anything else. Mod suits is a fun question. I don't know what others' stance was on it when writing the script.
Right, next question. Genetic. Oh, wait, no, we just read that. Could the camera system have the same map view that the suit sensor tracker has? As now, it's practically impossible to track someone on cameras, forcing security to beg for AI every time they want to keep track of a moving suspect for the 1 to 2 rooms, asks Vilshen. I mean, it's possible, but you'd constantly be having to tab between the two views to select a camera and then have the view, or it would require an incredibly wide UI that won't be usable for all players. Anyone who remembers the original incarnation of the TGY suit sensor monitor will know what we mean. And going into Fox's point, absolutely not. We don't need everyone with a security console acting as an AI. This has been brought up repeatedly over the years, it's been turned down every time. It's going to lead to an incredibly sharp uptick in catching traitors and a definitive feel of nowhere to hide. It makes missing cams way more obvious, and it makes gaining info near instantaneous compared to the present system. Adjacent to this, there was a camera system TG tried out where officers had built-in cams on their helmet. Predictably, this led to a similar scenario, and that's with the present intentionally janky camera system. I would like to point out two things that I've just realized from this as well. So for those who have played Xenobiologist, you know, the camera console they have for slide management stuff, we do have one of those for like security officers. It exists in the codebase. We just don't have it deployed because it's a power gamer's wet dream. It's horrible to deal with.
It's
And,
insanely broken.
As for security carrying cameras around, this used to be a massive issue because a while ago you could have it where you could print video cameras in the autolathe. And every round, all of security right at the start would just make a fucking conga line to cargo. All of them would get video cameras, put them in their fucking pockets, and they'd just be constantly having mobile cameras in maintenance. It made the game shit. This is why you can't print what's called video cameras off. It was just shit.
The biggest thing about that is what happened was 9 times out of 10, the warden would sit there on the camera and would dedicate. The moment they, security would type anything into their chat at all in security's little frequency, the warden would look at it. And they would be able to watch and see exactly who attacked them and when, and just immediately get everyone who was in security to go and rush to that security officer's aid. If they got down, didn't report back within a certain amount of time, same thing, same scenario. Basically, it made it into security was always winning, regardless of however the Antags wanted to try because of the little camera. And there was no way to actually turn them off for the most part. I don't even think that you could EMP them to turn them off.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just a power gamer's wet dream of making sure that security never died and never failed whatsoever, which was very boring, very dumb, and unfun for anyone playing against security.
The only way you could turn it off was taking it out of their pocket and using it in hand.
By that time, you're already done.
The helmets couldn't be turned off. What about the
the
TV
helmets
ones, I
as
think?
well. I was talking about the one for us when we had our cameras, because somebody discovered that years after we had added it and figured out how broken it was very quickly.
Then they also decided to combine it with teleporters and implanting the officers.
Oh god.
The implanting one was one of the worst.
Oh,
The teleporter one was for R&D's thing, but that's also been removed, so it's not really a big thing either anymore. But yeah, moving on.
Now that we have implemented crawling, are there any plans to change the critical health system from new crit to something less random? And building off that question, is it planned for ranged lethal weapons to be on par or even outclass ranged non-lethals? I don't have any plans to change the crit system. Our medical seems to be highly balanced around new crit, and I don't feel like a full medical rebalance is in the best interests where we're still combat and stun rework. And as for the other one, I kind of want non-lethals to be more viable than lethals, just to add to the combat dynamic and make permakilling or kill on sight designations less of a requirement in the average fight.
So I've sort of debated nerfing disablers for a while now. The issue is with disablers is they fire so fast, and I think they fire once every 0.4 seconds, and they do 30 stamina each hit. So you takes 2 hits, and then so what Riker said, the average fight is already non-lethal them into lethal them when they're helpless. So I do think nerfing disablers would be helpful. As for a less random crit system, it's not easy to make stuff like this deterministic. I'd need to think more on it, and I'd need to be presented with a good solution to come up with a set in stone opinion.
My thoughts on it was, I'm not as much of a fan of the TG system. However, I would love the random sleeps and stuns to be, say, negative 50 HP, with between 0 and negative 50 it only being knockdown, so someone doesn't hit 101 damage and instantly fall asleep and be done for. As for ranged lethals and non-lethals, I think non-lethal should be better. We don't want people to be we don't want lethaling to be better than non-lethals, or people will be going for lethals more and more and more. We do have the issue, though, as was mentioned with the Disabler, that it outperforms the baton close range, especially if you dual-wield Disablers. It's quite nasty. They do need to tweak.
I do wonder if we could actually apply the kinetic accelerator effect to it when you dual wield KAs. It slows down their overall fire rate, both.
Well, the thing is that sort of ruins the feature of dual wielding. The idea is,
It's true.
I think
Oh, I was muted.
one of our better options is to either make it reduce the threshold to slow down. That has a massive implication for like everything else. Or we could just simply reduce the damage of a disabler. If we reduced it down to, the thing is, we'd have to reduce it down to like 20 for it not to slow down in 2 shots.
The less damage it deals, the more armor makes an impact on it.
Yeah. Not like many armors have energy armor anyway. Anyway, yeah, disablers probably should be nerfed, but I'm not sure whether they should be outperformed by lethals.
For this, Fox wrote, I don't have any plans on seeing the system changed. Its complexity and dynamism is its strength. Changes in the system from originally simplistic system to the present one was a huge and controversial change. Changing it back at this point I don't think is healthy, nor is it a system that should be simplified either. I'd rather see stuff like TG's wound system added on top of the present one. That'd be more interesting and not take away depth. Lethals being worse than non-lethals is intentional. Incentivizing going lethal first is not grounds for a good outcome. Yes, we have rules in place for stopping some of this behavior, but I still don't want people to feel bad for going non-lethal brackets to stop a great hider. Oh, we're just putting him out with full-on lethals. This is an intentional design pattern.
Yeah, I think I'm only just want to remove the. I don't mind some RNG, but there's a bit too much for my liking at the moment in the crit system.
It can definitely like sway a fight too much.
Yeah, it can.
Something like what QWERTY said might be better. Might be better.
Yeah, more predictable RNG is still better.
Any more?
Next question.
Mr. Pancake123 asks, could the Revolution mode be given a rework? I really enjoy the idea of the station crew forming a union and overthrowing the command staff. If the game mode would be given the love and attention it serves, I feel like it could be a gameplay and RP experience. My concern with Revolution is it just encourages mass RDM. And it makes near impossible for the heads to win with our population size. Like, our high pop on the server is anywhere between 120 to 150. It kind of works on TG, where pop is between 40 and 60. And also, like, this game mode it makes the Blue Shield's life a misery. I also don't really see how it's an RP experience, because it's just quick mass flash people and RDM the heads.
Not only that, when we had times where Revolution was ran, 9 times out of 10 deaths or 9 out of 10 deaths that the Revolutionaries inflicted wasn't even on heads or security. It was just other random fucking people they felt like killing.
Does removal count as refactor?
You can refactor it into DevNull.
I like the idea of Revolution, however, I've never seen it work on Para. Yeah. I think that if we added it to rotation now, it would be too much of a culture shock. And admins hate it.
Yeah, it's no fun to admin at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fox says
a lot of times I don't mean to cut off you reading Fox, but a lot of times we have to deal with the fact that revolutionaries are killing other civilians for no reason other than the fact that they feel like it.
Yeah, Fox says, I still retain that Revolution, as it largely stands, is one of the single best game modes to ever grace us the team. I know many would disagree with me on this point, but it encapsulates a lot of the core SS13 culture. The crew versus command chaos, rapid breakdown of station behavior, and mass violence. The mode is short, sweet, and extremely on point with what it's supposed to be. It can lean towards being TDM, but that's kind of the point. As long as it doesn't happen all the time or drag out past the hour mark, I see no problem with it personally. I'm gonna be honest, I have to completely disagree with you here.
I feel like it could be interesting if admins ran it more.
I would run it more, but the way the game mode was before it was removed, that was just broken.
Also,
ugh.
Do not bring up mutiny mode. If anyone brings up mutiny game mode, I will stab you.
Like the thing is, what's the idea to rework it? Where do we want to go with it?
The only solution I can think that works well is rather than killing more of taking all of the heads hostage and ransoming the station back to CC for X amount of money or some kind of bonus from CC.
Maybe. It needs thought put into it. You can't just say what could we rework it?
It's a very hard thing.
Yeah.
And the thing that I just mentioned there is something I've done once or twice as an event before, and it usually still devolves into some kind of chaos, and somebody ends up getting a little too murder happy sometimes.
But I do think it could become something that's better than what it is currently. Which is
it could
never
do with
used.
a rework, but I have no idea how. Anyway, any more for any more?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Miraviel asks, can marooning be re-added to the default antagonist objectives? Antag man can still choose to just murder and eat the brains of their targets, but they would allow to be more creative with this. Marooning already is still in the traitor pool, just there's a 50% chance to get a kill objective. Then you have to fail the AI steal probability check, which is 100 over the player count percent chance. Then you have to fail a 5% chance for debrain. Then it's a 30% chance to get maroon. If you fail that, you get regular assassinate. So it does still exist, but I can't be bothered to run the numbers on how likely or unlikely it is because I am not a math lead.
Go on, Ada.
I mean, we can think about changing how it's done after a lot of other things can happen with Antags being redone.
I think
there's a lot on their plate already in terms of the coders.
I think it could be added to like some other of the main antags, but that's about it.
Isn't there also the prevent escaping alive objective, which kind of
that is maroon.
That is maroon.
That is maroon.
That is maroon.
Yeah.
That is literally what maroon is.
Yeah, it's literally datum objective maroon.
Yeah,
But
you have like
it's only given to
1% chance
traitors.
roll it. It's incredibly rare. I'd be fine with it moving into a realistic to appear chance to appear. Unlike the earlier discussion about just killing someone once, it's a lot harder to maroon someone than just kill them once. So it's more interesting in that regard. There is stuff you can do with it. And sure, you could try to kill them when they're being taken to the shuttle, but there's a good chance that someone just defibrillates them on the shuttle. So,
I think it might be interesting if the objective failed if they were dead.
Possible, could be a pain. It's possible, although it might lead to people just sticking them in a room with no headset.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Which is kind of cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
It's hard to. I think the allowing killing to work, but encouraging not. It's hard.
Yeah. Next question.
Fox's piece on this. Mixed feeling. It's a happy middle ground between kill once equals green text, but this does sometimes lead to just the hey, just leave all the station, wink wink, nudge nudge. I favor this far more than kill once approach, however.
Is there any plans to add more Antag objectives that don't necessitate taking people out of the round permanently? And with regards to being able to shoot while downed, is there any plans to change that? I've heard many people talk about a changeling rework. What are the priorities of wanted change with Clink specifically? Well, we've talked about permakilling already.
We've talked about permakilling, and we've talked about
shooting while down.
And,
I did have a PR up to rework changelings, but life got the better of me.
That's where the R&D rework is.
Basically, I think changelings, for lack of a better word, they lack an identity.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
No. So they have abilities that are suited for going balls to the wall, killing everyone, but they also have abilities that are suited for stealth, and the abilities that are good for killing people aren't that good, and the abilities that are suited for stealth are too good. I feel like they need a bit of a shift. Also, they need more options. Like, if you look at how many options they have compared to how many options traitors have, it's kind of ridiculous.
What about more like unique objectives? I guess it's hard to think of ones that would be actually interesting. Like, the idea is cool, but actually coming up with ideas is a bit more difficult.
As I said, it's hard to make an objective have stakes. Because ideally there'd be some pro for the traitor or whatever doing the objective, and there'd be some con for the station after it's done.
Yeah, once Affected's been kicked off the stage, he wanted me to raise it. He'll be back soon, hopefully.
Okay.
Would that be a good moment for a short break?
there is a super cool objective that that TG has where you steal the source code for Goon from R&D, and it slows down research, and that's very funny. That's all I have to say.
Antag objectives, yeah, that was mostly covered. Fox says, largely already covered. I really dislike the approach to turning the game into everyone stays in the round and can do what they want forever. Yay, hugs, rainbows, unicorns, sunshine, and all that. A key aspect of the game is things go wrong and not everything goes your way. Chaos happens all the time, things fall apart. It's not about sitting around and talking about building things 24/7. There has to be a certain pressure on the round towards more chaos, not less, otherwise things get very boring. Note from mine, I kind of agree with chaos being required for some things. I don't want us to turn back to base station. Do you have any plans to make setting up the SM more interesting? There's only 2 viable setups, and the result doesn't really look impressive at all compared to other engines anyway. Experimenter is really fun to play with, but the result's extremely lackluster. Do you plan on tweaking it / adding new items in the critical reaction pool? So far, the most impressive thing you could do is make infinite plasma, which xenobiology could already do without beating the shit out of you in the process. Kind of a silly question, but would IPCs receive any changes? I don't like the fact I can't engage in melee combat at all, since I'm either instantly beheaded or locked into crit. Doesn't matter how robust I am if one-click beads were halfway to crit. So, really quick for the IPC thing, they were changed to have their brute modifications removed in PR 18501. So, bit of a moot point because they were changed, but for the other things, we allow engineers to tinker with the SM setup as much as they want, providing that they have tested the setup on a local server and accept full responsibility that they may face a job ban if they completely cock up the engine with a super weird setup that's borderline guaranteed to fail. And as the experimenter, I do plan to remove it when I do the R&D rework. That's still coming, but it's a slow process because, well, I'll be blunt, I'm in the middle of a massive motivational deficit due to lack of free time and other factors I won't be getting into. It's just life throwing everything at me. For this question, Fox has wrote, eventually I'd like to see datamized gases that have complex interactions. This will add quite a bit to Atmos and SM dynamism, but don't expect anything hyper complicated. The current SM engine is already one of the most complex ones we've had. I'm going to touch on that quickly, Fox. Please can we, this is going to sound weird, but please can we not have listmos because it's much slower than our current Linda because list accesses are a pain in the ass. Raw variable gets them much faster.
I'd love more gases because that just more content, but the issue is obviously it takes someone to write the code or like port it, and there's performance concerns. Experimenter,
It's just
experiment.
ancient.
Yeah. Have you seen the experimenter's code? It's awful. I would be completely fine with it going away.
Yeah, someone needs to like take it up as an entire rework, or it needs to go because it's not been changed much in about 7 years. It used to be used to get like level 20 research to get adrenaline implants in R&D, and it's not been changed much since, so it's kind of useless these days. So someone needs to pick it up, otherwise it probably just needs to go.
For my thoughts on these 3 questions, for the SM1, I would like new gases if the server and code can handle it. For the experimenter, I was a fan of the experimental rework 11927 a long time ago, but that was abandoned. As for IPCs, we did just adjust their brute and burn mod, although maybe we could lower the chance of just their head being flat out knocked off really easily so they don't lose it in one E-sword hit instantly.
So, GDN asks a fuck ton of things. I'm just going to quick fire through these because there's so many of them. Current antagonist balance, simulation, security. I do think traitors in general need to look at in terms of loadout objectives in general time to them. I am not saying fully rework traitors, but definitely take a good look at it. Fox says ongoing changes to combat are expected. Overall combat is meant to be more dynamic, less binary. Some rules changes may be needed to address what Antags can and cannot do to compensate. This also goes for space combat is pretty whack as well. I'm deferring this one to you because I haven't done enough combat in the server in a while.
I agree with changelings needing love. Same with traitors, and vampires are the best antagonist.
I wonder why you say that.
Yeah. Next question.
Mech counters.
I'd like to see mech damage be more dynamic. So we keep saying the word dynamic, but what I mean is, as they take damage, the system integrity drops. Like currently, we have the system where like they lose control. But I'd like to see stuff like weapons getting disabled, slow down, stuff like that.
Yeah, for mechs, they do need some sort of weakness. EMP is not the way to go, because great. Sure, security has an ion rifle, but what about the mid-round antagonists are used to fight more often than security, which is blobs, terrors, xenomorphs? They don't have EMPs. They're the ones that suffer most against mechs, so the weakness should be something that the blobs, terrors, and terrors, and xenomorphs can interact with.
Highwayman says heat meter for mech actions like shooting and moving, like in every mech game ever.
Ooh.
Pr-
Holy shit, a based Highwayman suggestion.
Yeah, at one point I had an idea. There's this TTRPG called Lancer where you have like mech classes and you can like completely like customize mechs and stuff, and that'd be super cool. But God, it'd be so much work.
Do contribute to dev stuff. Yeah, I agree with this point. Talking to a dev team member about a PR idea will speed up the PR approval process significantly. Yes, it fucking will. People in teams should be pinged on like design and balance ideas, especially to avoid people wasting time on PRs we don't want. Because, well, I'll put it this way: if you spend a bunch of time coding like feature PR without asking us if we want it, and we don't want it, well, it's just going to be a major issue because you spent loads of time on something that we don't want. So, or like, ask first, and we can tell you if it's something we want or not, just to save time, speed up the approval process, and everything else. Points from Fox that didn't really fit in anywhere else. Ongoing changes to combat are expected. Overall combat is meant to be more dynamic, less binary. Some rule changes maybe need to incorporate to what Antags can't do. Non-lethals being strong is intentional, as covered already. We do not want lethal generally being better than non-lethal. It just feels bad when you lose an engagement with regular Grey Tider or Troublemaker because you went with non-lethal over lethal. And efficiency creep has always been a problem, and I'd advocated against it for a long time. Making optimal player behavior the default gameplay behavior is not great. Brackets, i.e., let's make the layout of RD/robotics/Cetra like insert optimal setup here is unideal. That said, having things that feed into gameplay loops to address common issues, I don't consider to be efficiency creep. Engineers having an easier time dealing with radiation is hardly a problem when their primary job revolves around dealing with it if they're an engine tech. It should be a challenge, but everything being handled manually is an efficiency creep IMO. I kind of agree with this, which is why Atmos needs like a bunch of stuff to it done round start. I know it's not much, but it gives you something to do. Because if round start, all the pumps in Atmos max, the pipes were changed, and everything else, it'd just be fucking boring.
Yeah, Atmos doesn't have enough content to not have busy work.
Yeah.
I'll also mention on the previous thing, do ping the design team more. I do love getting the DMs from people for design team feedback, but ask everyone, not just me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Favor pings over DMs.
Also, if you have like any code questions or anything, like how something should be handled, my DMs are open. You can ping me. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
All right, this is just I've got to really quickly rattle through these. If something was magically portable, what would you like to be ported? TG Atmos, but without the Osmos part. What
Combat
system
mode.
files in need of a refactor? See the signal crap I have outlined in the design doc. Any personal projects that you want to share with us that you'd like help with? Nothing.
My
I can
physics
disclose.
homework.
If you could buff one Antag, what would it be? No idea.
Changeling.
If you could nerf one Antag, what would it be? Cultist.
Yeah.
If you could buff one item, what would it be? No idea.
The radio jammer.
No, the Tesla revolver. It's useless right now. It fires faster than you can shock with the new shock system. It's in the stun folder, but it doesn't stun. Its DPS is abysmal compared to every other energy gun. It really needs a full rework to work with the new shock system.
If you could nerf one item, what would it be?
The Tesla.
That's not an item.
Mirror
Type of the
shields.
singularity.
Technically, it's a subtype of object.
And that's not object.
Double
item.
energy
It's an
source.
Yeah,
object,
don't care.
not an item,
Don't care.
You heard
if
item.
you could rework a part of gameplay, what would it be? R&D. I will do this by the end of this year. I hope.
R&D and virology for me, kind of on the same level.
Virology needs work.
Yeah,
If you could,
actually, no, the economy, but that's already happening.
If you could outright remove something from the game, what would you remove? Well, Swarmer's finally got the bucket, so lag.
I would say Swarmers as well, but Swarmers are fucking dead.
The janitor landmine that's hard coded to only work if you're a janitor mind.
I would say
the experimenter.
Look, I'll get to that when I get to it. If you could add back one removed anything from this code base, what would it be? I stand by all my removals.
I would. Right. Okay. Here's my controversial
Hot take.
I would have so anything that we've removed, I'd have it back if it was reworked to fix the problems that it had when it was originally implemented. That does not mean re-add secbogs. I swear to God.
Oh, you're a Secborg lover.
No. The opposite.
Oh shit. Yeah, I think here's my hot takes. I think if shadow links and security borgs had been dealt with in the proper ways, they could still exist.
The one thing that I would wish to come back was the whole telescience, because that shit was fun. But here's the thing.
No.
Here, no. Let me finish. There were things we discussed that never actually got done because people decided not to do it. About putting in ways to block teleporters from, say, touching certain Z levels or interacting on certain parts with specific objects.
One other thing.
I'm just permanently biased against telescience because Eden, you can back me up here. During like 2016, 2017, we abused the fuck out of it.
So did I.
Traitor strat was to max cap my targets every round.
Yeah, I would just max cap my targets, and if there was a Malf AI, just TP a max cap to its core and fucking detonate it.
I love
into
the whole
issue
idea
of, like,
of saving
reviving
people from
over Z
space.
levels.
One other thing is, so you know how like floor tiles used to like frost over if it was like cold?
What happened to that?
We removed it.
Why?
Give me it
that
back.
happened between 2017 and 2018.
I think it was during the Atmos rework.
It's
I want that
soulful.
back.
It's
It is
soulful.
soul.
Yeah,
Bring it back.
Soul edition.
Okay,
Sean,
Coder
get
man,
on
bring it back.
Right, next thing. Are you interested in more ambience tracks? Maybe something for Megafauna boss themes? This might be a
Yes.
total fame.
Yes.
I would fucking kill for this if we had a decent audio engine. The
Yes.
Beyond audio
true.
engine is a pain in the ass. You can't seamlessly loop sounds client side, and I would fucking kill for Megafauna boss themes. And no, I am not saying this just because I've played far too much Ultrakill.
You have
Imagine-
played far too much Ultrakill.
It might be dangerous though if like you go into a Megafauna boss fight and sending the sound to you lags your game.
God, the new meta, you need a fucking 7950X to beat the Megafauna.
But yes, if it was working fine, I would love Megafauna boss themes greatly.
What's the strongest department on average, and how do you nerf its strength? Science, and I nerf it by splitting it.
Botany, and someone suggested like adding instability to plants. So like the more genes you add, the less potency it gets. Some
Make
genes are worth
plants
more.
try to eat you randomly.
That is a take.
Yeah, I think some sort of system where you increase one stat, decreases other stats would be good for
Yeah.
Botany. And then the R&D rework is its own thing that's going to happen at some point, so that should hopefully deal with that.
I do want to get it done.
I still say I think science is probably the most strongest department, and I think the fact that upgrading the parts on the machines just makes it way too easy to print off things in mass, and I think decreasing the bonus of better parts probably would help.
As for weakest department, I'd either say
Ignoring botany,
service minus
service.
botany or medbay.
I think the weakest
Chemistry.
myself I think is cargo or science, with not counting botany.
I feel like medbay should have more ways to ghetto chem from like the dispensers and stuff. I think that'd be fun.
If we're counting cargo without Lava Land, then what we do to buff it is we make QM ahead. Done.
No.
That is hardly a thought.
Oh.
That is just
QWERTY
TG.
QWERTY's very close to the hottest take so far. Forklift when? Forklift now.
No, we're not going
No,
to the
honestly.
forklift conversation.
No,
We
honestly, do you know what I want for cargo? So, you know when you're boarding the plane at an airport and you see the people driving around the runway with like
No.
a train of 10
No.
things with just
No.
flags on the
Please.
doors. I would
Please,
fucking
no.
love that. Just having a little cargo train you
Cargo
can drive around with all
trains.
the crates
Oh
on
my
it.
god, you're reminding me of
Cargo train.
TGMC's cargo train shenanigans. People used to be able to
Grandpa
ride them.
UM approves.
Wait, TGMC has one?
They have one where you
Yes.
can. They
Port.
used to allow you to drive it and ride it, and they used to drive around with a shit ton of people from Delta on the back of them with
Yep.
grenade launchers and lots of grenades, and they would drive right up to the nest, throw a shit ton of grenades, and drive away like nothing happened.
You'll
It
deploy
was funny.
turrets on, too.
It was broken. But moving on,
TGMC's license permits porting to this code base.
Lamau.
Yeah.
What's the most enjoyable part of the game to you? Changing Eden's color matrix.
I cannot
He's a
substantiate this
fucking
claim.
knob, I'm telling you.
My favorite is messing with Desmond and making him into Squishman.
No,
Do you see what I have to deal with?
Real talk, my favorite part is I can't substantiate this claim. I haven't played in so long.
No, his favourite part is making me do 2 FA again every time I piss him off.
Yeah. So the entire development team's favorite thing is annoying Eden.
Yeah. Realistically, though, it's my favorite thing. Honestly, is playing stuff like chemistry or medbay in general, and just relaxing while listening to music, rather than having to worry about somebody walking up trying to kill me or trying to interact with me for the 100th time in the worst way physically possible.
I like the interactions, the fact you're on a station with 80 plus other people, the niche features, how they interact with each other very nicely.
I just enjoy teaching new players in cargo as QM.
I don't mind interacting with people in general. It's not like, in case anyone was wondering, it's not like I don't like interacting with people. I hate when people walk up to you, demand you do things for them, and when you don't do things for them, they throw hissy fits like little children.
I hate it when people walk up to me in general.
Listen, okay, Mr. Coder Man, go back to Mom's basement.
I'm actually in Affected's basement. He holds me hostage.
Shit, then you're also in the basement. I hold fucking Affected hostage.
Am I in
have
your
a golf
basement?
ball
Basement.
in my hand.
Very cool, Affected.
Golfer.
It is a Billy
Right.
Caspen. Anyway.
Next question. Thoughts on genetics?
Yeah.
Shit.
Been
It's
over
a very
this.
stale and rather boring
God.
job that seems to have the same gameplay loop of RNG and rather inconsistent results per round, with the development think making genetics part like the experimenter or psycho be a healthy change for the department, as well as dissolving the role of the scientist. Largely already covered. I think we want TG genetics, and I'm killing the experimenter hopefully by the end of this year.
I wouldn't want to dissolve it into scientists. That just gives scientists more stuff. I feel like breaking scientists up into other jobs might be better. So like doing the complete opposite, like having chemist and stuff like that. But each of the jobs needs to be more fun before we can do that.
Just to be certain, we are now at Octus question, right?
Yes.
Okay, because sorry that was so many questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no worries.
And yeah, I kind of like genetics as a hybrid department, to be honest.
The issue is it sucks for mapping because it means that every single time science needs to be next to medbay.
Oh no. Anyway.
Bmon asks, would you be in favor of TG skin tones for humans, basically
No.
preset skin values which allow better colors instead of a hue change? No. Fox says having selectable skin tones gives way more customization, going with TG as a step back. And my response, absolutely fucking not. Whenever I've played TG, I could never get the exact like shade of skin I wanted. Caucasian always looks too washed out. And given how our limbs work, where we don't have like a fixed human sprite, it's all limbs like blended together to make one. I don't want to deal with so many separate limbs having their own sprites and their own separate DMIs. It'd be a fucking mess.
Yeah.
I don't want a sprite in my code base called albino_M_S.
You also have the fact that obviously more customability is good, but the closest thing we have to this is Vox with their 6 different specific colors. And as we've all seen, specifically when Vox interact with changelings, it does not transfer DNA right. So that would almost certainly happen if we ported over humans having these specific sprites. You'd have them, upon transforming as a changeling, probably bug out and select one value each time.
Freakycrafter asks, got a few questions which don't exactly relate to combat, but here they are. Any thoughts on implementing cult leaders or something similar just to organize cults more? I'll read all his, then read the responses. What are your thoughts on adding departmental security that only get access to a specific department or have their own little checkpoint? Are you planning on removing or at least reworking how both least blue space produce works? In my opinion, it's extremely annoying to fight. Any thoughts on changelings? And any plans to rework cloning? As for cult leaders, I feel like this would just encourage unhealthy amounts of elitism, toxicity, and shouting for no reason. Like, it'd just be the whole thing of, I'm the cult leader, listen to me, blah blah blah. For this, Fox wrote, we had cult leaders before, it doesn't work out too well in my opinion. You either have massive coordination problems, or it ends up buffing an already insanely knowledgeable player beyond acceptable levels.
I'll be willing to try it, just their mass teleportability would either have to be removed or only work once in a summoning location.
The clearing question's a bit spicy.
Right, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on cult leader is that as long as it doesn't buff the individual and the voting system is something that's healthy, it basically all it needs to be is bold in chat, in my opinion. Departmental sec, I don't think that's a good idea.
We used to have this,
Used to have
and it got
was bad.
removed because officers would slack off and go, "Oh, I'm a science officer. I don't deal with things outside of science." Fox wrote for this. Not a fan on departmental sec. It's interesting, but I'd rather not have sec crammed up a departments behind 24/7 and scrutinizing every little thing I do. We already have a horrendously anti-Antag culture. I'd rather not make it even worse.
For blue space, did we get to blue space plants yet?
Yeah, blue and blue space plants.
No comment. Haven't played in too fucking long.
We did apply the debuff to them to make them not magical super spam. You can't touch me because I'm blinking 25 times per second. So far, I'm happy with that, but it's something to keep an eye on.
I feel like the issue is it's just that combined with everything else. As I've said before, I feel like having the blue space gene should negatively impact the other genes. Yeah, I just think botany is overtuned as in general.
Fox says botany needs to be toned down in a massive way. Again, TG has a nice system. I created the system that allows TG to have all the craziness it presently does, but it was clearly too strong. The way forward is a bit more selective and slower. It still has lots of headroom, but you can't achieve as it is quickly. Any thoughts on changelings in relation to how Mind Swap works? No comment. I haven't played the game in far too long. Fox says, I view changelings as largely fine. Difficult to deal with and hard to suss out without a lot of work.
I'm not sure on Mind Swap. It's not exactly it's okay. If I was to changelings need more options before we can remove the options they have. Some of the options, like the mass spam spider one, is stupid, but they need more things, not less. Now we come to reworking cloning.
Right, I'll read Fox's answer first.
I'm not drunk
no
enough
plans
for this.
cloning. It could hypothetically be removed one day, but at the moment I'm not sure it's a great idea. My plan. Honestly, I don't think removing it would be that bad. I know that I've only played IPC for the last 4 years, but we have defibs.
Yeah, we do. That's a fact. So, what I think is, if we were to remove cloning, we'd need a lot of auxiliary changes that people don't or haven't thought about when they say we should just remove cloning. If we did go through with all of those auxiliary changes, I'd be able to support it. But I think they'd all need to be in one PR.
All I'll say is, if we do remove cloning, revival surgery is not the way to go.
Yeah.
I feel like
Because
being able to like replace people's hearts and it reset defib timers or something.
the main thing that I've sort of seen that's just that image that will always stick in my mind from like when we've changed revivability. Who remembers the first incarnation of New Crit, where defib's no longer revived, and the test merge just so happens to be a blob round? And outside the cloning room, we had a queue of 14 bodies waiting to be revived because there was no easier method. If we remove the cloner and turn that into revival surgery, and we don't have some like seasoned medbay made at the surgery table, that it's just got to be even worse.
It's huge.
I do think players shouldn't be guaranteed revival if they get into medbay. They should be at the whim of a bald doctor. I know it sucks, but that's just how the game works.
Yeah.
Cloning is a catch, like all. What's the point in like putting in effort when you could just put them in the fix machine? And I see why people think that. So I do think cloning is poorly designed. Also, the code is very bad, which seems to be a theme here.
Are you done?
I've also just had someone message me that yesterday there was a slaughter demon with a body count of 41. This is why revivability needs to be thought about very carefully.
I think if there is a slaughter demon that's killed 41 people, then maybe calling the shuttle might be a good idea.
Of course it was fucking Rurik.
Looks suspicious.
Anyway.
As for me on cloning, I don't see the point in removing it. I'm fine with tweaks to make it harder, but there are so many things to consider before even thinking of removing it, especially since I know some people want to make brain transferring harder, not efficient. Like, medbay is going to go insane if they have to start preparing Legion bodies without cloning and having to brain transfer, with brain transfer being harder, or having to fix literally every bone and IB and every limb on someone's body.
Yeah, it's not fun. You have to consider strange reagent and like
Yeah.
that by itself is already a massive point to bring up, and then there's brain transfers.
I feel like if cloning had some downside, so cloning should be expensive. It should be timely. It shouldn't
It
be
should
the
use a
most
fuck ton of
efficient.
power.
It shouldn't be the most efficient because
It should be a
presently
last
you can
resort.
fill up a cloner round start and like not need to fill it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with cloning being more expensive. I'm fine with it taking rare materials. I'm fine for it taking an ungodly amount of power. I do not think it should be longer, though, if we do the other two options.
Yeah. Someone says, why nerf cloning where there's incidents of people mass dying and need quick revival? Well, what I say
Defibs.
to that is you're not necessarily entitled to being revived automatically if you get brought into medbay. I think
Also
that's
defibs,
an
SR, and everything else.
yeah, I think that's sort of like an unhealthy mindset. If you die, maybe you should have not done that.
Don't say get good.
Just don't die, lol.
Yeah, sometimes you do die and it's out of your control, and that's how the game goes.
This is what ghost rolls are for as well. Like,
Yeah,
there are
Yeah.
things to
that
do.
is something that I would want, like more ghost rolls. I did put like a design doc on GitHub that nobody responded to.
As is tradition.
Yeah.
Where basically the two ideas would be there'd be like an off-station role where you could go play your character in some like place that isn't on the station, and another place where you could like test Antag items and Antag abilities and so yeah, effectively like VR, but it's for dead people.
Don't say that again, please.
Yeah.
VR.
MC
Yeah, but
destabilize.
But who was VR coded by again?
Oh
Who do you
god.
think?
Yeah, exactly.
Your inner war.
Just there you go.
Next question.
So next question, yes. Removal of the cluster firebomb from mining loot. It's unfathomably bonkers that miners can just get a hijack level item. Replacing it with a non-cluster bomb version of it would be better in my opinion. My response to this: this is fucking mining loot.
It's useless.
Okay,
It's
not hijack.
the same.
It's
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
it's
pretty
good.
shit.
it's like it's worse than a welder bomb.
It just sets everyone around it on fire.
Yes.
It's
And heats them up a little bit.
equivalent. It's equivalent to the what's it called? The book that basically coats everyone in liquids, and you can basically just walk into them while you're
Yeah.
fireproof.
I would be
It
up
is
for removing
equivalent to that, except not even as bad.
I
because-
feel like it could be replaced with like a mining charge. Maybe something like makes an explosion in like a long line or something. I don't know.
Yeah, just
Keep the theme
That'd
of
be
it.
cool.
it's not hijack level, but it's also not good.
I'm
doesn't
sure
need
there's
to
the-
be
yeah.
mining loot.
Also, side note, can you tell that I barely play the game and I'm basically just technical consultant now?
I think it should be relevant to the fucking mining job at the very least.
Yeah, it should be like a blasting charge where you could use it to like make a long tunnel for stuff.
Yeah.
Because not only could you mine with that, you could prepare arenas to kite megafauna with.
Yeah.
Scarab bombs from Terraria.
Make it so that flashbangs don't affect blob as much as they do. Making it so it only affects the exposed tiles would be a lot more fun to play against, in my opinion.
Fox says no plans to adjust flashbangs. They can get detrimental to blobs, but that's kind of the point. There needs to be some kind of hard check on them particular situations. I wrote, this would completely nerf it into the ground and make it impossible to fight blobs with flashbangs. The fact they AoE is the only reason you can even use them to fight the blob. I also still stand by the fact we need to remove round start blob and balance it around it being a late game major event where science has hyperguns shout out every 5 nanoseconds. Because this is the biggest problem with the blob, and the person who wrote this question even said that blob is in need of a rework. And yeah, honestly, I've said it before, I will die on this hill. Round start blob needs to go. Because you cannot have an antagonist that is balanced around the earliest part in the game where nothing happens, and super late game where science can shit out AEGs every 5 nanoseconds. Yes, I know they need a conversion kit now. It still happens.
Yeah. I agree on removing Ransack Blob. With flashbangs, maybe make it so that it only affects like blob tiles down to a minimum amount of damage, so you can't just like throw 70 of them in an area and then remove like an entire chunk of blob.
The main issue with flashbangs is not what it does to a big blob, because a big blob can handle it. It's round start and mid-round blobs that just started are unable to handle it. The ironic best thing to do with it might be make it that the more blob tiles it hits, the stronger it is, but that's silly. It's just small blobs can't handle it, big ones can, but it's most effective against small blobs when they're always deployed. So
I feel like the issue isn't that they're too strong, it's that they're too spammable. And we can't reduce the amount of they have to spam, so instead we should reduce the effect multiple have at once.
We're getting some mixed opinions in the chat right now.
The only catch is the cluster bang, but we could make a special subtype.
No, because something that I know people do, because I've done it, is they go into security and they get the boxes full of flashbangs, and they throw
Eat them.
throw seven flashbangs in a small area, and it just removes a full 14 by 14 area of blob.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
Thoughts on potentially expanding all mob spawner roles to be available upon death? It may be disappointing sometimes to be permakilled and not be able to respawn as a desired role due to RNG.
Not all
Fox
ruins.
Says most spawner roles are available on death.
Some of them are tied to ruins, and those ruins shouldn't have 100% chance to spawn.
Yeah. I would really not have so many ruins as guaranteed 4 spawns, because space should be random and not predictable. I didn't spend all of this time ripping out hard-coded space locations just to have stuff be forcibly spawned.
Yeah, I do wish for more ghost rolls, as I've said before. Yeah, I don't think they should all be guaranteed. Next question.
Same person. Can't remember if this was brought before, but thoughts on replacing specific antagonist objectives entirely with broad RP goals, such as, quote, sabotage station, as a traitor without a specific goal of really saw from the round internally. Fox says, having more generic goals is interesting in theory, but difficult to track mechanically. I'll get to this in a minute. It's also going to differ heavily from one admin to the next, when given broad, open-ended goals. So some admins might say, they might see sabotage the station and mean, oh, release a fucking singular for all I care. Whereas another one might go something as even shutting down an electrical grid for going too far. My opinion on this, we had an idea a while ago for more RP-centric stuff known as blue text objectives. They don't have a code-defined checkable win condition or anything like that. They're just fluff text you should strive to try and achieve, and you can decide yourself whether you succeeded at this or not, similar to fluff crew objectives on other servers. Small fluff things like inconvenience person here, where that's slipping them or so. Obviously, if it gets too far and it borders on like metagrudging like territory, there will be issues. But just small things that don't have to be mechanically tracked that are like nice supplemental objectives.
Yeah, I agree with everything said there.
Next question.
The mechanic role.
Will the mechanic role be coming back, or pods of any kind for space travel? Will there be any other gateway maps added or brought back?
So, first thing, the mechanic wasn't supposed to do the exploration at first. It was intended for it to make the pods for people to get from them one way or another, so that normal other people could explore. That was the purpose of the role. It turned into the mechanic eventually taking themselves and their friends on space rod pods through space to loot whatever the fuck they felt like. Now, I will let Affected have his fun with the code right now, because that was... oh boy.
So, Fox's response on this. No to both. I still largely believe action should be focused mostly on the station. I'm glad to see the era of off-station focus draw down. The mechanic and pods will not be returning. Space pods were the worst coded thing in the world. Why the fuck were they not a subtype of mechs is the best question. I firmly believe that exploring space, well, it's a vast expanse that's a borderline void full of anything you see. It should be dangerous. You should not be able to cruise around in fucking luxury with no worry about oxygen or anything else in a fucking space pod. And as for the gateway missions, I am moving gateway missions to Space Ruins slowly. Again, motivation deficit, but the entire gateway itself is going. I will do it.
My only thing on this is gateway mechanic is being purged and not coming back, or was already purged, as mentioned. I do want more space stuff, more deadly ruins, more deadly threats. This was part of the point back in the day when we removed space-proof removal, and mechanic was to make way for more space runes, deadly stuff in space, but we never really got around to it, so it would be nice for it happening at some point in the future.
Yeah, I think we have very few high risk, high reward type things. It's usually low risk, high reward.
Yeah, it's just sort of bad for gameplay.
Also, in general, anything where you have to fight simple mobs as well just never works out.
God. The Wild West was interesting and somewhat decently, like, slightly thought through, but the fact you could just cheese all the simple mobs in a Ripley was just shit.
Nice Ripley, just a monkey in a
You know
office
exactly
chair.
what I'm referencing.
Oh man, shut up.
Right.
Oh, the next question, how appropriate. What's everyone's thoughts on the blob game mode? Heads don't want it removed, and the community doesn't want mid-round blob removed. So what do you think should be done to the blob game mode to differentiate it to the mid-round and make it a strong game mode in general? I am still firmly in the remove it camp, and might make another push for this sooner or later.
Yeah.
Fox says, it needs major tweaking. TG updated it, we've never caught up. It's a mode, however, that's inclined towards snowballing, so I will believe it will always have certain problems. On the whole thought, yes, it needs to be reworked.
I'd be fine with it being removed.
It's just blob, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
round stop blob.
Okay, I think you need to pick one or the other.
Either it
Yeah.
needs to be removed or it needs some major quality of life changes. Like if you're playing as blob, you have zero indication that you're actually a blob unless you like are right there when you join, or like 10 seconds before you burst, you get a pop-up saying you feel like you're gonna burst. But it's kind of shit. Also, I don't think giving the hive mind is a good idea though. Having 3 blobs burst in like the turbine all together, then they split, make 6. Probably not great.
I think blob splitting is its own thing we should probably consider at some point. It's kind of like, it's just something that happens.
Yeah, probably shouldn't consider it right now.
Yeah, not right now, but...
So, next question.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Oh, still on topic. What are your thoughts on current blob? What would you change about it?
No,
it's a
we
unique
missed a
Antag.
question affected.
Pardon?
We missed a question. Part 2 of Flo's question.
Oh, did they edit? What do you think should be done to differentiate it between mid-round and make it a stronger game mode in general?
I meant
Refresh your page.
Oh, they
They-
fucking edited it in the middle of the meeting.
they edited it 22 minutes ago.
No, they couldn't normally.
Yeah, they did. They
7:39.
edited...
Okay, fine. Ignore me. I didn't refresh the page. That's on me.
Yeah.
Last year, Sean ported Seer Station to Paracode, and after 9 months, it was determined the map wasn't performing enough for Paradise. This year, Kugo created Shepherd, and after 3 months, it was determined it was not performance. Kugo closed their PR a month later after determining they made more performant and changed to comfort. So it's a very large amount of work to port a station or make it from scratch, unlike Goon, where a property of people might all work on a single map concurrently. These efforts are undertaken by a single person on Para, and the works at the mercy of design code bounce teams. I worry that the recent failures in introducing new station maps will have a chilling effect on future attempts at mapping. Do you think this is an issue, and if so, how would you address it? Yeah, you can have first.
Yeah. So, when we were discussing that pull request, I was concerned that it would completely kill anyone's urge to ever make a map for us. Now, I feel like before making a map, what should happen is someone makes like a floor plan of effectively where they expect everything to roughly go before putting all of the effort into a map that runs like shit. I feel like it's so easy when you're making a map to keep adding more to it. And as a result, you get a map that runs really badly, and then it's really hard to start removing things from it to make it run better. So I think that, yeah, as Sean says, we need like a defined development process for this type of thing. And we don't have one because it never happens. We need a development process for it. But because it never happens, we don't. And if we were to have that type of thing, it might encourage people to actually map for us. It just needs more design phase than just jumping straight into it.
I do want to quickly interject with something on the topic of like map design and stuff. 2 things. Regarding map performance, this isn't something we can just sort of optimize with code, because the entire process of setting maps is beyond native. It's not something we code and could like optimize and stuff. It's all down to Beyond's internally. And the problem with that is we are very, very limited on what we can even do. the CPU in the server is a 10900KF that has been absolutely shoved to 5.3. We cannot go any faster even if we wanted to. So having 180 people on a map in ludicrous situations, or even just regular high pop, which is 140 to 150, about 80% of the CPU is being used on sending map updates. And so that leaves a mere 10 milliseconds to process TGUIs, atmospherics, lighting, machinery, mob life, player input, everything else that needs to process in the background. And you really start running out of CPU with what happens. And we can't just multi-thread it, because Beyond only runs on one thread. There's nothing that can be done there. So as much as we have to skimp on features at times, like the item pickup animations, we have to make sacrifices in some places to make the server playable at all.
There's a reason why certain other servers have such high time dilations. It's
Yes.
because they physically cannot keep up. That's why you can see certain downstreams have upwards to, I swear to God, I've seen this before, hit almost 80, 90% time dilation.
I've seen 300% on a specific server before.
And some
This is
even prevent
also
like
true,
decal
I've heard about
spawning
that.
from like bloods and bullet shells and stuff like that. They just don't spawn, don't clutter the floors.
There's a reason why that certain other code bases have decided to gut entire subsystems, including atmospherics, lighting, basically whatever they don't think is the main purpose of their server, they'll just gut it so that they can have the main purpose continue living with 100, 150 plus players active at one time.
It's a difficult topic. If you want to make a map for us or port a map, please present us with a design first before you spend all that time mapping.
Also, the other thing as well, in regards to like adding extra maps and stuff, it's hard enough making people vote for Meta Station or Delta Station, and managing the map queues for those already. Adding more to the pile will just make the box monotony even worse. Change my mind.
Let's move on.
Let's
Yes,
kind of let's
better
not get
move
into
on.
that
We're
topic.
gonna go into circle logic here in the moment if we continue on
Yeah.
that topic.
So anyway, next question. What are your thoughts on current blob, and what would you like to see changed about it? We've already really covered through this.
What are the reasons on keeping round start blob?
Oh, what are the reasons keeping groundstop blob? Dempth, I'm pretty sure you're the one person who really wants to keep it.
Main reason I'm arguing against removing it is because just the lack of round types in general, as we're removing more as years go by and not adding any. If there was a way forward to improve it, change it, make its own thing, I'd be for that. Even make it something completely different.
Okay, but when we eventually move to dynamic, that'll
only have
probably
one
be a
round
moot point
type.
anyway, because there'll be extra stuff thrown into the mix.
That's true.
Anyway, now's not the time for arguing.
This is an argument.
Okay.
Either way.
It's
here's
a
the
long
big one.
discussion.
What
Yeah.
is the hesitation with removing cloning? We've already really covered this.
Yeah.
Any objections if we skip to the next, because these have mostly been covered already?
Yeah.
No,
Oh my
no
god.
objection.
Matt, I'm just got a quick fire.
Matt!
Matt's my beloved.
So, AI door controls. I would really like sort of like a warm-up timer on these where bolting a door takes a progress bar, because I've seen it so many times, and AI will go to a location and just click, 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 bolt all the doors instantly. Shit idea, shit to play against, I don't like it.
Yep.
I think we probably should consider adding like a 3-second timer, so at least it gives somebody the chance to get the hell out.
Also,
Maybe
it
not
probably
3
should have
seconds, but like
Maybe a little
2
shorter,
seconds.
maybe a little longer. We can always
It-
play around with timing.
It probably should have a warning as well so that people know it's happening. Because if you had a timer and
Oh no, I mean like a timer
no.
plus whatever visual indication for whoever can
Yeah,
actually see
yeah.
it. Because nobody who's not the AI could see a timer, of course.
So
Yeah, yeah.
boring to play against.
Yeah.
Because it is very boring to basically get locked out of an area entirely and not know it's going to happen until it's happened and you are screwed.
My concerns with it is how this affects Malf and subverted AI, people not using the actual door menu versus manual bolting. I don't think a 3-second timer or of that length, it would have to be much shorter, would work very well.
We can always give Malf AI.
We can always give them
And
the ability to spend CPU on
And people meta
getting
it.
instant.
Look,
They
if
can-
the AI is going down that route, they'd already know it's Mal from all the
Yeah, they can wait
They
to
should
buy
already
it.
know.
Yeah.
True, but they could say they're subverted, but then if they're bolting that fast, it just
subverted AIs are already incredibly powerful. I wouldn't mind
Consider
bringing them down. a single.
Consider the following. The AI can just wait themselves. Next thing,
What?
traitor healing items. I think this is fixed up by the nanocalcium changes, but is there interest in adding some iron healing medkits to the uplink?
No.
No,
I
enough
feel
in medical.
If you need
This-
medical, you can steal it from medical. You're an
this-
Antag.
Blob game mode. Rambled about this enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Shields and block chances. Have
I think
shields
I
have
read
some
this.
sort of HP or charge system could be cool.
Minions talked about it a lot. Might happen.
At the current moment, HP on shields themselves is probably a good idea. However, at the current moment, just the 50-50 RNG seems the most fair method we have. I haven't seen anything better, and while damage leak through is interesting, with things that involve knockdown or stun batons, it doesn't quite work. So, at the current moment, 50-50 seems the best.
Vampire mute time, Charlie.
I've considered making it so that the vampire mute time reduces as your usable blood increases, meaning that if you have 1,000 blood, you're not muting security and running around like undetected. Anyone else?
Evidence rating.
People will game that. Well, it's an ability that you're using. It's like saying people game you using full power ability.
Sorry, what was the question?
Vampire mute time onto evidence rating.
Evidence storage is its own problem, honestly. It's just a pain.
I can vouch for evidence storage being a massive problem. Remember in 2017, my fuckery with the Atmos vent crawling suit?
Yeah, you're a dickhead, that's why.
What do you mean? I do want to point out in the Brig remap that happened afterwards from that, the lockers inside the hidden area did not have vents directly accessible. You had to go through the window first. Funny that. But anyway, yeah, evidence rating should really sort of be tweaked.
I'm not sure I agree with the brig being a fortress. It's either locked
the
behind.
brig definitely shouldn't be a fortress.
It's locked behind 2 doors because you got to go through the main door, which has hacking protection on it.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you look in the meeting channel, there is one arm wall you need to take down,
Yeah.
and then you're in the secure side of it.
It's like the reward to risk ratio of what you get out of evidence is like
Syndicate
you just
hit.
get so much.
Yeah.
Syndicate teleporter.
Even that. Yeah, if you use a syndicate teleport, you can just fucking bloop through, steal it all, and then bloop out.
Where would it be better placed? Next to like the armory, for instance, and like place the firing range where that is now.
It should
That's
be
too
located.
far out of the place, though.
I mean,
It should be located somewhere that's near to the outside of security, not in the middle, but it also shouldn't be easy to get in, but also shouldn't be.
Then you need a spacesuit to get.
We could put it where, actually, put it where the pod pilot used to be is not.
Yeah, comrade makes a point to be where people actually check.
Areas with high traffic to make it more of a risk.
You could put windows in the processing area.
We're gonna get into a discussion here. It probably will be a very long thing. Yeah. Probably would be best to move on and consider coming back to this topic. As a design team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion meeting on this afterwards.
It would be a very long discussion, I feel like.
Yeah. We'll get to that another time. And space crawling and jetpacks. Currently, you can crawl in space with a jetpack and become very hard to hit. Is this intended behavior?
Well, gravity basically negates all slowdown. We'd need to refactor the slowdown system entirely to make it not do that. It is intended. It wouldn't be easy to change.
Yeah, I would say not intended, but not an easy thing to fix either, considering the baseline mechanics there involved.
Like, it's definitely intended that gravity makes all slowdowns null. But it's all ballers are stupid. But it's also not intended because the system that we use is just very archaic. Next question?
Yeah.
Contractors.
What are the staff's thoughts on contractors, specifically the current reward potential?
Too high reward.
Yeah, you could kind of snowball with TC.
You can get it pretty easily because most people just end up agreeing to it if they know what you are and explain to who they are. It's kind of lame in my opinion, but there is supposed to be a change coming for that to actually make people not want to. I.e. specifically having your shit kicked in for going there as if you were resisting being interrogated.
Yeah, it's almost like you shouldn't be willingly consenting to be kidnapped by the fucking syndicate.
Yeah, there's also other ways we can explore if that doesn't turn out to get enough people to resist this and not just go along with letting themselves get kidnapped. Other means of in-character punishments could be enacted besides just having your shit pushed in. Maybe if we have an economy going, you have the syndicate pilfer a couple bits of money, or NT decides to cut your pay for a while, if not steal all your money for, failing to uphold your position.
I also was talking with some people earlier, where we could make it, instead of being an option, we could revert it back to how it was before, where it would be a random chance to convert a traitor to it. Not how like you buy it as a kit, but instead it be like a separate antagonist that you have like a different.
I like
different
how it
preference-
was when it was
different-
originally implemented.
No, so you'd have like a preference for it, and
Be traitor, be contractor.
yeah, and instead of it being 10 traitors in a round, it would be 9 traitors and 1 contractor. And the only issue I see with that is fewer people might select contractor, and then it like selects from a select pool. Maybe it could maybe it could like roll for traitors, and then of those traitors, it selects contractors if they have the contractor preference.
Yeah, but what if you have traitor off and contractor on?
Then
You get nothing.
Sounds like a them issue, to be honest.
Yeah, if you don't want it, you don't get it.
We'll just
Kinda.
make it clear that you need to have
I mean,
traitor on if you want to roll.
It's also
contractor.
something that can be explored after we see how the in-character punishment goes for, people who get their shit kicked in a little bit.
Emily in chat says, I don't like that. Contractor is a fun choice if your objectives are super boring. I agree. However, the issue is that a lot of people will take it every single round, and then
They do it just to be a pain in the ass to sometimes to security, because I find it fun to basically be a hassle and be a fucking
also
it's fair. It's fair. I'm not gonna lie. You can still be, do your funny meme things, but doing it all the time to security and just kind of fucking their shit up all the time just kind of gets lame after a while.
Also, if you really don't want to do your objectives, I'm sure if you help.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We change people's objectives all the time. I've literally had people ask for new objectives, and I ask them if they want memes or if they want normal new objectives. And half the time, people take memes, where I will have you take all of your friends' shoes or clothes or something random like that, and have them sacrifice it to some kind of weird thing, and then just continuously build up on the whole thing of that, just for the sake of people having something fun to do. That's not just normal things.
Force mentors to murder each other.
I mean, okay, so
Xavier,
you know exactly what I used to do to fucking mentors when I was an admin. The new mentors would literally get thrown into space. I'd remove their legs, strap them to a fucking wheelchair, give them a tank of air, a tank of a gas mask, a tank of water, and a fire extinguisher, and tell them to find their way back to the station and give them objectives once they manage to get back to the station.
Do we want to
the ultimate test?
Yeah, do we want to go to the next question?
We should go to the next one.
Right, so...
Rapid fire round 2.
Yeah, rapid fire round 2. What would you say is the strongest combat item available?
Chainsaw,
Me.
sword.
Time between Ebo revolver.
Yeah, probably the 357.
What would you say the strongest utility item available is? Insulated gloves.
Teleporter, emake, champ projector.
The city teleporter.
RCD.
What would you say the weakest
This is for
combat item
uplink.
is?
This is uplink stuff.
Honestly, I do think the chameleon projector is underrated as hell.
Yeah,
It's so fucking good.
It is insanely good, and I love it. But you also can't do anything else except try and hide. And if somebody is smart, hey, look, flashbang, my favorite.
What would you say is the weakest combat item?
Camera flashes in the weapon section.
Dehydrated space carp.
Space carp.
Space carp is probably the weakest. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I agree. Space
Very
carp.
funny.
The
But
Psychiatrist
space carp
the
is
grenade.
also funny. And
Oh,
if
the
I remember
feral
correctly,
cat grenade.
The
That's
feral
funny though.
Oh, feral cat can
the
be
feral
pretty
cat
good.
grenades actually can maim the shit of a lot of
Yeah.
people very quickly if they're used properly. I have seen somebody throw
Don't
3 of
doubt the
those into the chapel with their target and 4 other people nearby, including 2 security. And I watched the 2 security die way before the target was.
If they can pull it off, I respect it, honestly.
The feral cat grenade, again, if used properly, just like a lot of other items, unlike the dehydrated space carb, which can just decide, I'm gonna kill you, the person who made me.
No, I'm pretty sure it adds you to it.
If you hug the carp before spraying it, it will ally.
Yeah, but people forget to do that.
Yeah.
That's not very intuitive. That's the
one of the
this?
weakest utility item.
Radio
I'd say the uplink implant.
I'm going to put
that's got use for like.
That's
if
got
you
use
get
because you can kind of hide your shit and you can basically.
But why not use a storage implant?
It's got a cost of 4 TC, and you can just if you want to buy stuff later on while you're in perma, like depending on
if they
you
forget
get
to
put
grab
in solitary, you might want to buy a toolbox to break out that way. If
Yeah, you
just
kill
get
your
put in regular
target, then you
perma,
just let
buy a
yourself
new
get
bag.
permed.
Yeah.
Preparing
And
for
then you're just safe.
failure.
I think contractor changes that one quite a bit.
But yeah. So
true.
you said the weakest utility item again? God, I
I'm
think the
sticking with the
camera
radio
bug is
jammer.
honestly the fucking weakest, personally.
Camera bug
Yes,
is good.
yes.
No,
Observation. but oh my god, you can't use it to actually have any combat or like any. You can only use it for defensive purposes or for scouting purposes. It's not for something you can do to
Also,
like.
I feel like the crew pinpoint, like the crew monitor, does the same job, but better.
Yeah, it kind of does that. That's the whole thing. That's why I think it's one of the weakest. But I
That's-
do think it has merits to it. You can kind of see what security's doing, what they were trying to grab and stuff like that. I still think it's kind of weak in the sense, though.
I'm gonna stick with the radio jammer.
The other
Nothing
item
will change
there
my mind.
is the EMP bomb for EMP hits.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
God.
I forgot that
Four
item even
EMP kits is way
existed.
better. It really should. It should probably go to what I originally designed it for, which is multiple EMP blasts, so it can actually take out mechs versus. So actually, a big multi-hit EMP versus just.
I feel like
one
EMPs need
EMP.
another level of power for bombs.
Oh
because-
my god, you'd have to rewrite so much code.
You'd have to rewrite a
know.
lot.
I
But-
know.
Probably should move on to that thing.
I would
yeah.
just make it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, quite a simple
underpriced and
one.
overpriced.
Oh, I
EMEG
saw this.
underpriced. I wouldn't change it.
I agree with that one.
I think
Yeah.
EMAG is probably the underpriced one.
Overpriced.
Power sync. It costs half your TC. Contractors can cut out a bunch of APCs every like 20 minutes using their funny free credits, and it costs half your TC to cut power compared to just messing with SEMSs or cutting wires. It should cost less.
The most overpriced one is the singular beacon because it's fucking useless these days.
Yeah.
Didn't we remove it from the uplink?
No, it's still in there.
No, it's still there.
Fair
It
enough.
still exists. It probably
It still can be
Yeah,
used
it
if
still
you.
can be used if you set one up yourself and decide that you will be
Yeah.
the big meme of them all as a
Yeah.
hijacker or something.
Yeah.
But I mean,
What-
at that point, you deserve whatever win you get.
What we lower power sync to, Matt?
What item do you want removed from the code base and yeeted into the sod?
I have 2 items there.
From the
Object
top.
item grab.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Remember, this is uplink.
Oh, uplink.
40, you said you had two?
The first one is I would remove it from surplus. It's the Chaplain Mind Slave staff. I'm sure all the admins remember when it used to permanently fill up the Traitor and Mind
Oh,
Slave
God.
panel, so it gave 2 entries to everyone and would never go away, so you'd have over 30 people in a check Antag list.
You want to know my personal opinion of why I don't like that, besides that reason? Hey, come step in this funny box so I can burn you.
Yeah, it's
Easy win.
It's
I've had that happen to me before. While
I've
I was
had that happen to
Antag.
me
It's so
7 fucking times.
unsatisfying.
It is not fun. It's not engaging. It is literally
It's
just,
so
hey, look, I win
unfun.
now.
the other item is I mentioned it earlier. It's the Janitor Jan Mine. No one buys it. It doesn't show up in surplus. And it doesn't show up in a surplus because it's hard coded to the Janitor mind. If you try to interact at the non-Janitor, it does nothing. It checks your mind specifically. It's horrible.
That's soul.
It is hilarious though.
And then
What would you
Anybody
like
else?
ported in some fashion from another code base item?
Combat mode.
Just an
Uplink.
item.
That's
No,
not a fucking
that's not
item.
an
And also, this
item.
is uplink things.
The 2 things would be either the making airplanes lethal weapons or syndicate mod suits, because that means you get mod suits in general.
Mod suits Paradise Station 2024 real.
Fucking 2029.
try
No, comrade,
2040.
no.
What's he said?
Rimmerol.
No, not Romero.
No. No.
Yeah, I.
That's the
No.
server again.
God.
I'm not really up to date on.
Next question.
Yeah.
Quite a simple one. Are there any plans to expand the design or balance teams to include more people from the currently active player base? Perhaps ones not on the existing staff team for a wider demographic spread of players?
There always needs to be odd numbers in the teams to prevent
Yes.
deadlocks. And it's difficult to find 2 candidates at once. Also, if you have too many people, it's hard to like come to consensuses on things.
Comes too many cooks, and
Yes.
Yeah.
we have problems with too many cooks. All trying
However,
to like say one thing or another, and then we just get shitting shows.
however, I would be more than happy to expand the review team and the commit access team, given they have the right experience.
Oh, 100%.
But okay, let me just say this: we're not gonna like hold the design or balance teams to be just people on staff, just so people are aware, in case anyone
We will
thinks that we're
expand
just leaving it as staff.
So yeah, like
And I just wanted to say that just so people don't think we have the wrong idea. We're only keeping it to staff. The whole idea right now is just people that we know that have some kind of bearing on what's going on in the game, have been here for a while. Because most people who are admins have been here for multiple years.
Question. The current art style on Para has slowly spread out and diluted from the original jumpsuit and very good retrofuturism. Since art style and art direction generally affects all aspects of a game, okay, from player and RP behavior to feature additions, what's the general consensus on, for example, having something like a survey or a vote on a comprehensive art style? Paradise seems to be lacking a general direction in this regard. It can make a lot of things needlessly stuff, especially designing heavy ones like spriting. TG aesthetic. That's what we established a while ago.
I have no idea. I have no issue with like survey, but not everything's going to have the exact same art style. While we should be going for the 3/4 TG, like people use different palette styles, and that's always going to be. There's no gold standard for that.
I do think if we had like someone make a standard palette for like certain things, we could benefit from that. But it just needs someone to do it and it be approved. And yeah,
the go-to litmus test for me for things like this, when you've sprited it and it's in-game around everything else, does it look like it belongs there? That's the general test for me. Because if it looks like it belongs there, it's the right perspective, and the palette isn't fucking neon green Asib 2015 Volp, I'm fine with it. Just
Very
so
specific
long...
there, affected.
Yeah, look, you know why. It was fucking awful times. Anyway, any more for that question? While this does not pertain to Antag or combat, are there any plans to implement some sort of fast-track system in editing the lore? Currently, any major lore changes require headman approval. Perhaps a dedicated lore team could be established. We used to have a lore team. I believe it was abolished because either A, it wasn't used enough, or B, people would like try and fast-track apply to that just to push their own agenda of what the lore should be, and that turned out to be a really bad idea.
So, from talking to people in the past and figuring out what happened to it, yes, people tried to use it to push their own narratives rather than a generic overarching scheme. They tried to put their own character stuff into it all the time, and had to constantly changed and removed, or straight up told, no, you can't just add your flavor to the fucking thing about your one specific character. It's supposed to be overarching stuff. The main thing is there's supposed to be some improvements, some changing. If people have ideas they want to do, like changes to the lore, they can always bring it to a head, and we can, look it over and give it to some other people who have in the past worked on the lore team, because there are quite a few people who are still part of staff that used to be part of the lore team and do kind of keep an eye on stuff like that.
I would like to see more lore development, but you've got to write the law for there to be new law.
Like, you can ask questions. Like, if you want to expand something or rewrite something to make it better, you can ask questions about it before you get started, so you're not wasting time or feel like you might waste your time doing so. And you can feed us little snippets here and there and see if we agree with stuff or like stuff, rather than you sitting there spending, let's just say, 6 fucking hours rewriting the entire fucking SolGov lore just for one of the heads to turn around and say, no, this is shit, get fucked.
Yeah.
I know, we're not actually going to turn around and tell you this is shit, get fucked. I say that because
we will be constructive with criticism.
Yes, we have constructive criticism. I say that as a joke. I said the part as a joke because that's just how I am.
Wilk just said in chat, the Neon homeworld still needs a name.
Oh,
yeah.
Does
it not have one? Really? I thought
the Moth Zone.
I literally thought Nance had a No, okay, look, seriously. No, none of the fucking lamp memes in their lore, because we're trying to keep them from going overboard with that shit. That's why the whole naming scheme was the way it was for a while, is to prevent people from going overboard with the jokes and the memes, because it got very, very bad very quickly.
Clothes Depot.
Now, I thought there honestly was one already with the person who wrote the lore originally. I'm gonna go poke them and see if there actually had one, and if not, we'll see who can do stuff.
Yeah.
The Motherland.
Question? Our map pool is somewhat limited compared to other servers. How does the staff feel about new maps? We had Shep for a while, but it was still in progress, especially ones that aren't based in space. Think single level Icebox or some other map based on Mars. Well, 2 little problems here. 1, we are not having Icebox ever. It absolutely fucking destroys the Atmos controller. Anyone who's played TG or a TG downstream can vouch for that.
Ice Storm, my favorite.
But the other issue is it just sort of messes with a lot of things that are part of the game. Like, for example, Icebox. how do you deal with space transitions? Because it's just a flat fucking ice sea level. Well, the game is called Space Station, and it's a planetary thing. There's just all sorts of other issues. It just doesn't fit with the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And as for other maps, again, see other arguments. It's hard enough getting people to actually play the other maps because of the box monotony. Adding more to the pool would just make it even worse. And yeah, performance is very much an issue when you have to cram 150 people onto one instance.
Just for the icebox thing. I personally kind of like icebox, but my god, is it just lagged to shit once there's enough things that have happened on the server. Also, the fact that if icebox ever gets breached, it's now like slowly descending
7,000
cold
ATs.
reason. Yeah, the entire fucking place just starts getting colder and colder, and people have to do very, very memey things to prevent the heat from going bad, such as running heating pipes through the entirety of the middle of the station to prevent the entire place from slowing to a crawl. And yes, I have seen downstreams on TG actually have this stuff pre-mapped in specifically to prevent this kind of stuff.
That's kind of cringe, not gonna lie.
It's the only way to it's the only way to stop the coldness from spreading so fucking fast to slow the server down to not to a crawl. But yes, I personally think that Space Station 13 should mostly stay as space in some way or another. Now, if it's a planet, I don't mind that as long as it still has that theme of it being kind of like not a settled planet, in my own opinion. But that's my own opinion, and other people have theirs.
I would like to see more map. There have been a lot of complaints that Meta Station, Box, and Delta all feel the same. So I feel like if we were to implement a new map, it would need some like design principles behind it in order to go forward with it. Like Icebox has the principle that it's on an ice planet. It would need something like that. Yeah, I don't have much more to say.
Behold, lava circle.
Next question.
Yep.
While I acknowledge this isn't combat or balance related, there has been some discussion recently about improving the overall soundscape of Paradise, and I'd like to bring it up while it's still fresh. So the topics of note are improving or adding general ambience, adding sound effects for attract subjects to the sound tweaks. Essentially the goal is to make the game more pleasing to the ears and more immersive by adding some sound design to the game. Instead, the generally quiet station we're already used to. Given we have teams covering the tangible aspects of the game and the visual aspects, I'm curious if there might be some interesting more organisation around the audible aspects. A bit formally is the question, are there plans, any interest in such organisation of it, such as an informal sound team or audio development channel? Is there anything different in terms of audio development? I can speak a lot on this. So, the biggest problem with sound design on anything is licensing. Because so many sound effects don't have licenses to permit, and I'm not willing to go down that rabbit hole. But I want this game to have more audio stuff. For music-wise things, Beyond's audio engine is crap. You cannot do seamless loops on the client, and you actually have to track the sound duration server side and send a play event to the client again to do that. However, more sound effects? Absolutely yes. And, like, honestly, if you think you can make a sound effect for something, just try it and try and make it work on Audacity. Like, the best example of this, you know when you click a light switch in game, that's that little clicking sound? I sampled that from the home button on an old iPhone. Just try and make things and see how it sounds. But yes, I would love to add
So you know
more, like,
the
stuff.
walking on glass sound? I'm pretty sure that's the sound of Sean punching his window. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? A lot of my sounds were either adjusted sounds we already had in the code base or otherwise unused sounds that were actually quite usable, just nothing was attached to them.
Don't forget, there's also plenty of sounds that exist in the free space that people are freely allowed to get. Now, the quality of them are hit or miss. There are some really good quality ones, and then there's some really bad quality ones. But they're also, free, so you can't really just judge things too badly.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, we're not trying to license
So
specifically because that's just an additional cost all the fucking time as well.
Also, fuck royalties.
So basically, as a consensus, I feel like a sound team isn't needed as of right now. If it became a much bigger thing, then maybe.
Yeah, a dedicated team, not much, but people, you are more than welcome to add extra audio atmosphere to the game.
Yeah.
And I should also point out as well, with play sound, so yes, I know that when like an admin plays a sound effect, that can lag for everyone. That is because your client doesn't have the asset, and the lag is the download period. The main thing is, actual assets that are part of the game code themselves, they won't have lag on play because they're already cached on your client.
You already have the file.
Yeah, it's already on your PC. all that needs to happen is the server needs to send you a tiny event packet that says play this sound at this volume and this frequency. So
Yep.
actual sounds in the repo, much more performant, fine. Just if you want to add small sound effects for things, as long as license permits, I'll probably approve it.
Yeah, if you have something that's good, you have something that's decent, you think it's gonna work good for an object having a new sound, you make a PR about it. Just toss
Yep.
that shit in there. Put the sample of it in the PR itself as well, so people can grab it as well easily that way. If you can,
Yeah,
do so.
it helps if you add it as an MP4 and not like some link that plays
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, repo sounds as OGS, please.
Yes, OGG.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
When are we
Yeah.
going to bring back nations?
When you
Fucking
code it,
never.
My answer is what I said before when I literally said no very loudly and sternly.
Yeah.
When Landalos codes it and it gets left up on the GitHub for a year, and then I'll close it.
The reason nations wasn't fun for people that weren't here. 9 times out of 10, they devolved into just normal station roles. Except, hey, look, now you have to barter and bicker for every little thing from the other sections.
I'll
Or
put it this way:
constant war where everyone got murdered every 2 seconds.
still better.
nations will not be in this code base so long as there is air in my lungs.
It's
And I want
just
to point out that even
no.
when I'm dead, my lungs will still have air in them. There will not be a vacuum.
Are
Next
you an
question.
organ donor?
So,
What do you think about the lack of general content as rounds go along? Most jobs besides security tend to get everything they need but done by the hour 30 mark, usually only engineering being held back in completing goals by botany. Do you think there's a solution towards this? If so, what? In general, adding more content's always helpful. It's hard to just add more content. You need to think it through. And you need to have ideas for this content. But if anyone does have ideas, can feel free to make suggestions, and they're valued. Anyone else?
I'm sorry, I can miss this one because I was getting a phone call. We're talking
What-
about the security one now, yes? Or general
the-
lack of content?
yeah.
Okay. Oh boy. There's a certain point where we want to add more things that we don't want to just bloat the server with a bunch of shit. Because, we briefly touched on it. The more things you add, the less stable the server kind of becomes. And we have more things like large fits of lag, like certain other stations like TG can certainly, people who've played on TG and TG downstream certainly are aware of how much time dilation can become such a pain in the fucking ass. But, I know how it is for people that have been here for a very long time, myself included, where things just feel stale and boring. That's why, we're trying to add more things as we can.
the way I describe it, and this is going to be the most corny analogy in the world, but I use this because it's the best way to describe it. TG code is a Minecraft snapshot release. Tons of features, bit unstable, but you've got your features. Paradise is 1.12.2. It's old, it's not completely fully featured, but you will be fucking hard pressed to find something that runs better.
Yeah. That being said, we're always up more features.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't.
As long as it doesn't nuke the server in ways you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Like, even something as minor as, so the item pickup animations? They were only briefly in the code. Something as minor as that can have major performance implications because of how Beyond works.
Last question.
Yeah. This was asked by Autumn. Hello. Something very general. Is staff, coders, admins, etc. happy with the RP quality on the server? If yes, why? If no, why not? I don't play the server enough to really vote on this, but one of the reasons I stopped playing was, well, it could just be burnout, but I feel like the RP level has dropped a bit. Things have become more memey over time. There has been a fair bit of efficiency creep, and just in general, but I don't know if this is an actual issue or just me going on the stage of chronic fucking burnout.
Well, personally, I would like to add that I do find that the roleplay level has dropped, but also I find that this question is, you can basically also get back to Marmite's question with this about the lack of content. In my opinion, content is not just what is coded into the game. A big part of SS13 is, or should be, roleplay. And in my opinion, if people focused more on roleplay than just Unga and shit that is already coded into the game, you can also make your own content, your own story. And I've been saying this for quite often, but I'd like to repeat that. Just, roleplay and not just green text or whatever. I mean, it's each to their own, but in my opinion, if people focused more on roleplay, I think it would also fill the void that some other people might feel in regards to the lack of content.
I think Xperia makes a very good point. A lot of people get quite salty about green text objectives and bullshit like that. You shouldn't care so much.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's funny, I reached out to Affected, and I wanted to say actually the exact similar thing. And I would like to remind everyone that when you play security, or when you play an antagonist, or if you play even in general, the things you do are not in a vacuum. If you power a game one round and just literally beat the crap out of the antagonist, rest assured, next time they will raise the arms. So losing on purpose not only has an effect on how you play, but how everyone around you is playing. And it kind of brings a stop to the arms race, which, trust me, there is no good coming out of an arms race between antagonists and security. So maybe if somebody does something shady behind here and your character doesn't look in that direction, ignore it. Or just allow people to make mistakes without beating the shit out of them.
Right. Do you have anything else to say?
Probably, but no more questions.
My final note is, if you ever want to contribute to the server, my DMs are open. You can ping me. You can ping the design team or the balance team with your ideas.
That's preferable over DMs as well for the thoughts on the entire team.
Yep. And if you have like code questions, you can ping the review team or the commit access team. I'm sure they'll be happy to help.